Welcome back. So some good news if you are looking to get your driver's license. Those testing centers get back to business starting today. But how will social distance be maintained? Ontario's Transportation Minister Carolyn Mulroney joins me now to discuss this and so much more. Good morning to you, Minister.
Good morning, Melanie.
I want to begin here with the DriveTest Centres because there is a little bit of confusion when it comes to who can go where and when. So if you could just clear up some of that confusion as to what's happening today.
Absolutely. So today is the first day of the gradual and phased reopening of DriveTest centers. So during the pandemic, all DriveTest centers were closed. During that time, a backlog was created. And so we're trying to address that backlog as well as some current demand. So if you are going for a G1 or an M1 knowledge test, or if you're a commercial driver and you need a road test, you can go during phase one. But in order to maintain physical distancing and safety protocols, some DriveTest centers, if they're one of the larger centers, they'll be going by birth date. So you could go this week if you were born in January or June, from January through June. Next week will be July through December, and then so on. That will alternate. So we're trying to make sure that DriveTest centers are able to implement safety protocols, such as physical distancing, so that both customers and examiners can be safe.
Minister, how big of a backlog are we talking specifically for commercial drivers?
Well, it's probably about somewhere between 7,000 and 9,000 tests have accrued. Commercial drivers have to go back for tests on a regular basis. And it's important throughout this, it's been important throughout this pandemic, and it will be going on, that we can keep our economy going. So it's critical that commercial drivers are able to go back and get those tests. So that's why we wanted to make sure that starting right now, starting June 22nd through this first phase, that we get commercial drivers tested as needed.
Okay. What we're looking at are some visuals of, and I don't know if this is old or new, and I'm going to guess it's old, but some congestion in the city of Toronto. There's been a lot of talk that many people are shy or anxious to take public transit given the current conditions we are in with COVID-19, that many people are just going to jump in their cars when we eventually get to a point where people are heading back into and out of the city to commute. I want to get your take on what you think the numbers look like, because no doubt you've been as part of these conversations, and what infrastructure might be in place to combat it.
Well, first of all, I can guarantee that those images were from before the pandemic, because people have really listened to the medical officer of health and have stayed home. But that said, as the economy is reopening, people will be returning to public transit. And we issued guidance for transit agencies across the province. So no matter where you live, we've issued consistent guidance to make sure that passengers and operators feel safe. So things like wearing a face covering, sanitizing your hand, implementing engineering controls where possible, and ensuring physical distancing will be part of public transit going forward.
And when we speak of public transit, obviously we're looking at, specifically in Toronto, the TTC, looking at millions worth of losses financially. Where do things stand? Obviously, this goes beyond just the province, but also at a federal level with help for funding. Do you have any insight there?
Well, we have been very active in having conversations with our provincial and territorial partners about the need for federal support for public transit agencies. This is not, the problem in Toronto is great. The operational deficit as a result of the loss of fare box revenue is high, and it's continuing to grow. But it's not just a Toronto problem. It's not just an Ontario problem. It's across the country. And that's why we have been talking to the federal government at my level, with ministers of transportation, as well as the Premier has been doing so with the Deputy Prime Minister and the Prime Minister as well. So we are looking forward to continuing those conversations and finding a way to support our transit agencies going forward.
Okay, and at least a little bit of good news with the DriveTest Centres today. Minister Mulroney, we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.